नमस्कार मंडळी, टेकबिटच्या नवीन भागामध्ये तुम्हा सगळ्यांचं पुन्हा एकदा मनापासून स्वागत. आज आपल्या सगळ्यांच्या आवडीचा विषय आहे आणि तो विषय आहे कम्प्युटर गेम्स. आणि या विषयावर बोलायला आपल्यासोबत आहेत चेतन नातू. सर, पॉडकास्टच्या दृष्टीने प्रश्नांचा विचार करत होतो तर बरेच प्रश्न येऊन गेले डोक्यात, बट आय वॉन्ट टू स्टार्ट विथ अ व्हेरी ऑब्व्हियस क्वेश्चन जो मला पहिल्यापासून होता. माइनस्वीपर कसा खेळायचा?
माइनस्वीपर इज अन इंटरेस्टिंग गेम. थोडासा चॅलेंजिंग पण आहे जर का पहिल्यांदाच बघत असू तर. आणि माइनस्वीपर यूज टू बी बंडल्ड विथ विंडोज. सुरुवातीच्या काळात म्हणजे विंडोज 95 पासून इट वॉज बंडल्ड विथ विंडोज. आणि इट्स अ लॉजिक गेम.
ओके.
म्हणजे सुरुवातीला मी जेव्हा खेळायला सुरू केलं मला असं वाटतं क्लिक 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 करायचं आणि काहीतरी ते बॉम्ब फुटतो आणि ते छान आवाज यायचा त्यावेळेला. अर्ली डेज, ओके, वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट अर्ली डेज ऑफ GUI. This is I was introduced to Minesweeper around 97-98. 97-98.
Okay.
So तेव्हा आवाज आला की छान वाटायचं. पहिल्यांदाच मल्टीमीडिया अँड ऑल दॅट वे गेटिंग इंट्रोड्यूस्ड. बट देन आय स्टार्टेड अंडरस्टँडिंग की वो गेम क्या है. इट्स अ गेम ऑफ लॉजिक. So first click on the Minesweeper field is a matter of luck. की तुम्ही जेव्हा क्लिक करता तेव्हा तो स्क्वेअर ओपन होतो. इट गिव्स यू अ नंबर और इज अ ब्लँक. सो नंबर सिग्निफाईज की त्या स्क्वेअरच्या आजूबाजूला जे 8 स्क्वेअर्स आहेत त्याच्यापैकी किती स्क्वेअर्सच्या मागे बॉम्ब आहे.
ओके.
बट दोज अदर 8 स्क्वेअर्स आर फिल्ड इन, दे आर नॉट रिव्हील्ड येट. सो यू हॅव टू नो गेस त्या नंबरवर की इथं जर का 3 असेल तर बाजूच्या 8 पैकी कुठले 3 बॉम्ब्स आहेत, कुठले नाही. अँड यू कॅन यूज द बटन क्लिक्स टू आयडेंटिफाय एक फ्लॅग आहे का. If you know that this is a bomb, then you right click and flag it. This is a bomb. Then it will not be revealed. So aim of the game is to identify all the bombs which are identified. The number असतो की 10 असेल, 40 असेल, 99 असेल. तर त्या फील्ड मध्ये किती बॉम्ब आहेत ते तुम्ही आयडेंटिफाय करायचे. And if you can reveal all of them, then you win the game. Otherwise it explodes and you start again. So idea खूप सिंपल आहे. पण त्यांनी ज्या क्रिएटिव्हली त्यांनी ती प्रेझेंट केली होती, माइनस्वीपर, इट गिव्स यू फील ऑफ बीइंग इन अ माइनस्वीपर. सो दॅट वाज इंटरेस्टिंग. आय थिंक दॅट वाज द फर्स्ट GUI गेम दॅट आय प्लेड विथ इंटरेस्ट.
ओके.
अँड at a point of time I was even addicted to that. I used to keep score.
तुम्ही मगाशी म्हणाला शॉर्टकट वगैरे पण तुम्ही काही.
राईट. सो देयर इज अ शॉर्टकट इन दॅट की एकदा पहिला स्क्वेअर ओपन झाला किंवा कुठल्याही स्क्वेअर वरती जी विच इज ओपन, इफ यू क्लिक बोथ दी बटन्स टुगेदर, लेफ्ट अँड राईट बोथ टुगेदर ॲट द सेम टाइम, देन इट ओपन्स ऑल दी पॉसिबल ओपन स्क्वेअर्स ऑटोमॅटिकली. क्लिक नाही करावं, यू डोंट हॅव टू क्लिक ऑन एव्हरी स्क्वेअर. जर का एखाद्या स्क्वेअरच्या आजूबाजूला 1 आहे नंबर आणि बाकीचे 7 ओपन आहेत, इट ओपन्स ऑल द 7. यू डोंट हॅव टू क्लिक ऑन 7 टाइम्स. अँड देन देर आर पॅटर्न्स की त्याच्यात पॅटर्न्स असतात काही की हा नंबर आला तर यू कॅन गॅरंटी की इथंच बॉम्ब आहे. यू कॅन सेफली ओपन दीज स्क्वेअर्स. यू डोंट इवन हॅव टू गेस नाउ. बट दिस कम्स फ्रॉम एक्सटेंडेड प्रॅक्टिस or exposure to the game. So that's how you can identify. Rather, if I talk about any game generally, the more exposure you have, the more shortcuts that you find, more patterns that you find, because ultimately it's a game, right? I mean, even though however realistic it may be. And during the discussion we'll go there as well. पण आता तरी एक लिमिटेशन अशी आहे की the kind of permutation combinations that you might have are limited because of coding. So
माइनस्वीपर तसा बराच जुना गेम आहे, सो तोच थ्रेड पकडून I want to ask की what is the first memory of a game that you have? तुम्ही पहिला गेम कुठला?
I played a game called as Cats. 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 आता तो आहे की नाही ते माहिती नाही मला, but it was on a DOS based game. I played that game in 1987. Fine?
1987.
Yeah.
Okay. कम्प्युटर
साधारण त्या पिरियड मध्ये, आय थिंक इफ आय रिमेंबर करेक्टली, आय माइट बी रॉंग, आय थिंक mid 80s we started getting machines as a commodity in India.
Okay.
My school was pretty forward thinking. बडोद्यामध्ये मी अलेम्बिक विद्यालय नावाच्या शाळेत होतो. अलेम्बिक विद्यालय. इट वॉज अ स्पॉन्सर्ड स्कूल बाय अलेम्बिक इंडस्ट्री. सो इट वॉज फॉरवर्ड थिंकिंग. आणि त्यांनी 87 साली, 87 पण नाही त्याच्या आधीच, बट आय मे बी रॉंग, बट 87 साली दे ब्रॉट 6 to 7 microcomputers in the school. and they set up a lab.
Oh, okay.
And they hired a trainer to look after the lab. So it was investment. And त्याच्यातून त्यांना काही revenue होणार नव्हता किंवा they were not even publicizing it की आमच्याकडे कम्प्युटर आहे. It was more from the point of view की मुलांना एक्सपोजर मिळावं आणि पुढे त्यांना काहीतरी करावं ह्या हेतून त्यांनी आणला होता तो. So as young minds, we were all interested in going to the lab and playing games and whatever not. So तिथं Cats नावाचा गेम होता.
Okay.
The idea was that 2D game, completely 2D. Now, if today's kids take a look at them, they might not even look at it twice. But we were fascinated by that. You play the role of a cat.
Okay.
And there's a building with multiple windows open. You have to jump on the trash bins and windowsills and go inside the room. एखादी खिडकी ओपन असेल ती खिडकी पण रॅन्डमली वर जात होते. सो तो टायमिंग बघून तुम्ही त्या खिडकीतून आत जायचं. आत गेलं की ती रूम ओपन होते. सो यू हॅव अ डिफरंट व्ह्यू कमिंग अप. मग तिथे काय उंदीर असतात, मासे असतात, तुम्ही खायचे. अँड देन यू कम आउट ऑफ द रूम अँड यू कीप ऑन गोइंग टू डिफरंट रूम्स. सो दॅट वॉज द बेसिक आयडिया. Based on, I mean, if you compare it to today's immersive games and storylines that you see, it was a pretty stupid game. But
that time it was a novelty.
It was a novelty. I mean, we lived to play that game. जे शाळेत करायचं ते कॅच खेळायचं.
आणि किती वेळ असायचा तास?
इट युज टू बी हाफ एन आवर. एक पिरियड डेडिकेट केला होता. आठवड्यातून एक पिरियड. तुम्ही आयडिया अशी होती की तुम्ही त्या लॅबमध्ये जायचं आणि काहीतरी शिकायचं. बट वी यूज टू लुक आफ्टर द गेम्स. की गेम्स खेळू.
म्हणजे हे कंपल्सरी होतं की ऑप्टिन होतं कॉम्प्युटर सुटलं?
इट वॉज कंपल्सरी. पिरियड वॉज कंपल्सरी. तिथे जाऊन काय करायचं हे ऑप्शनल होतं. अँड I think it was compulsory for medium secondary school.
Medium secondary.
I think 5th, 6th, 7th च्या पुढे कंपल्सरी होतं आणि everyone was given half an hour every week आणि you had to go there and do something. एका वर्गात साधारणतः 40 एक मुलं असायची.
Half an hour every week. Quite an excitement म्हणजे
पुढच्या आठवड्यासाठी. And we used to play in groups and games and त्याच्यातही डिवाइड केलेलं असायचे की 40 पैकी 20 मुलं आता जातील, 20 मुलं आता जातील वगैरे असे डिव्हिजन.
आणि म्हणजे गेम्स खेळणार ओरडायचं नाही कोणी. गेम्स काय खेळताय?
नो, रादर द ट्रेनर यूज टू गिव्ह अस कम्प्लीट फ्रीडम इन टर्म्स ऑफ की हे आहे आणि आता तुम्ही करा काय करायचंय. बट टू कंटिन्यू विथ दॅट थॉट, आय थिंक शी वॉज द फर्स्ट पर्सन हू डायरेक्टेड माय थॉट्स टुवर्ड्स द आयडियाज बिहाइंड गेम.
ओके.
I mean, she said कि ठीक है गेम खेल रहे हो. Of course, गुजराती I'll translate. कि गेम खेळता है ठीक है, पण ही गेम तुम्ही का नाही बनवू शकत?
Cool. Okay.
किती दिवस गेम खेळणार आणि तेच गेम खेळून तुम्हाला कंटाळा नाही कळत. तुम्ही तुमची आयडिया लावा, तुमची गेम तयार करा. दॅट टाइम वी यूज टू फाइंड इट व्हेरी अनोइंग की काय गेम खेळायच्यामध्ये डिस्टर्ब का करताय आम्हाला. बट देन ॲज आय स्टार्टेड लुकिंग ॲट द गेम, फ्रँकली स्पीकिंग, आफ्टर सर्टन पिरियड the novelty wears off. किती दिवस तुम्ही मांजर बनवून त्या खिडकीतून जाणार. नवीन काहीतरी पाहिजे. सो असं की नवीन कसं आणायचं. देन शी सेड की नवीन पाहिजे ना तुला विकत घ्यावं लागेल.
ओके.
घेणार का? म्हणजे घेतो की किती लागणार? अराउंड ₹500 लागतील. रिमेंबर 1987 $500. अरे इतके पैसे लागतात? हो, त्यापेक्षा तू तयार कर मग. So that was her way of telling me that games are going to be restrictive in terms of the variety that you get or the different kind of exposures that you're going to be getting. So why not open your imagination to build your own game?
तुम्ही बनवलं कधी?
To be very honest, I tried.
Okay.
And I was able to build the basic mechanics of it. But I'm really horrible at UI.
Okay.
So I never could crack the secret of creating a UI for the game.
Okay.
So my thought was more towards ज्याला आता गेम इंजिन म्हणतो आपण. We'll talk about that as we go. So it was more towards the mechanics of the game. की हे कसं rules काय असेल त्याचे, लॉजिक काय असेल किंवा ते कसं फ्लो करायचं, the navigation flow, the story lines. So that was what my major thrust was. But again, as a user, I was always fascinated by the different experiences that I could get from a game. And at some point of time in my life, I can even say now that I was addicted to games.
Okay.
I used to play almost 8 to 9 hours a day. Different kinds of games, different genres and different titles.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I've spent/wasted a lot of time on games.
Wasting is not wasting.
Yeah, I mean, that time I was led to believe that I'm wasting my time. But now looking back, I think that, yeah, from a classical sense, maybe wastage asu shakto, but that has also taught me a lot of things.
You talked about a game you made. तुम्ही बनवलेला गेम. So त्याचं इन्स्पिरेशन काय होतं किंवा गेमची थीम काय होती?
Theme was more like I wanted to build a story.
Okay.
If two people are put in a scenario, how would they react to the changing situation around that?
Okay.
Of course, my thought process was very raw at that time. I couldn't understand how to bring this into programming world. At that time, the only programming language that was available to me, I was exposed to,
You're
was...
talking about kutla time frame?
This was around 93, 94.
Okay. Almost
So,
30 years back.
Yeah. So, the programming languages that I was exposed to was C and Basic and COBOL. So, out of which Basic and COBOL were out of question because based on my understanding at that point of time, I couldn't envision creating a game out of those programming languages. C, yes, I was good at it, but again, in C also, I was more focused towards the system level programming rather than the gaming game.
Okay.
I was stuck. The thoughts were there, but it never got into the physical plane. I could never bring it into a Murta Sarup je म्हणतो आपण त्याला. त्या लेवलला नाही आलं कधी. Then, at certain point of time, I started pushing it back because now playing a game became more important than creating a game. But still, the thought is still there. The game the games that I choose need to have certain theme or need to have a storyline behind that, need to be rich in terms of experience. I personally don't like the games which are mindless. You just click, and something happens. Then that's not something which interests me. Yeah, they are useful sometimes, but it doesn't interest me. So the entire journey towards gaming came from the idea that I want to, let my thoughts be presented on the screen.
तुम्ही म्हणालात गेम खेळणं इम्पॉर्टंट होतं किंवा तुम्ही म्हणालात की कुठल्या पद्धतीचे गेम तुमचं अटेन्शन ग्रॅब करू शकत होतं. सो ऑन दॅट लाईन्स मला असं विचारायचं की तुम्ही कुठले गेम खेळलात आतापर्यंत आणि सध्या कुठला गेम खेळताय?
Okay, I think I have played anything from text-based games to VR games. I have covered the entire spectrum.
Oh, okay.
But if I were to talk in terms of numbers, roughly, I might have played around 2,000 to 2,500 titles. I'm talking about 30 years worth of gaming.
Quite an experience.
Right? And with the easy availability of games now, it's also easier to find new titles and get them on your machine and start playing them. Yeah, some of them I played for a longer duration. Some of them I still play. They are pretty old games. But I still play them because they are interesting, they are challenging, they are thought-provoking. So I still play them. But nowadays, my focus is more towards strategy-based games or managerial games or tycoon games. I used to play RPG role-playing games a few years back. I used to play first-person shooters. But first-person shooters also become repetitive after time. So then strategy games are something where you create strategies on a day-to-day basis. Every run of the game is different.
Yes.
So that's what I play nowadays.
In terms of titles, कुठले games?
Terms of titles, okay. The game which I'm playing right now on a frequent basis is called as RimWorld.
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 RM RimWorld. And Football Manager.
Okay.
It's a franchise. So I'm playing Football Manager from the year 2015 to 2024. Every year a new edition comes in, and I buy that. So yeah, addicted. So RimWorld is a strategy game. So as I said, strategy and managerial games are what I'm just doing right now.
So since we are talking about your experience in gaming, तुमची journey. So looking back over the 30 years of gaming, तुम्हाला कुठले गेम असे आठवतात किंवा पिरियड वाईज की पहिले 5 वर्षातले असं what are the games that have impacted your thought process, you as a person?
I mentioned Cats.
Yes.
So Cats was the first game that I came across, but त्याच काळात आता त्या गेमचं नावही मला आठवत नाहीये, पण त्याच काळात there was a game which I used to play in school.
Okay.
Which was resource management game. The scenario was something like you have a village, you have a certain number of people, and you have a certain number of fields.
Okay.
So you have to allocate the villages into defense of the village, farming, and other things. and based on your strategy, the other villagers would attack your village. If your defense is poor, you lose, your village gets burnt, or your crops get lost, or something like that. So that was the game which pushed me towards the managerial games or
Sounds
strategy
like
games.
Age of Empires.
Kind of, but text based.
Okay.
Completely text based.
Okay.
I mean, they used to show me trees for village or something like that. So you have 10 trees, now 3 were burnt.
ऍक्च्युली म्हणजे पण माझ्या जनरेशन पासून टेक्स्ट बेस्ड हे म्हणजे असं ऐकूनच माहिती आम्ही कधी खेळच नाही.
It used to be interesting. And see, I'll tell you one more thing. Probably you will like those kind of games because they're descriptive. So, because you don't have visual medium.
Yes.
So the game makers used to create the entire scenario using text and words and the imagination.
Dungeons and Dragons
kind of. Rather, Dungeons and Dragons was also something that I came across first time as part of game. I never played the board game.
Okay.
But I came across a game as a computer game. So that was first game that I got interested in. Second game that I was interested in was called as, I think, F16 or F19. I'm not sure of the title right now.
Okay.
It was during those days, I think stealth bombers were the rage. America came up with the stealth bombers. So it was based on flight games that you are a pilot of a fighter plane. You fly the plane, do the missions, and you get promoted. You start from the lower ranks to you become the squadron leader or whatever. So that was also something which was interesting because there was a ladder.
Okay.
The ladder concept that we have in gaming, that as you progress,
तुमचे ऑप्शन्स वाढत
जातात किंवा the more difficult scenarios, difficult missions, and the rewards coming out of that will also increase. So that all was introduced in that game. Then there was a game called as, again, names elude me, 30 years back.
F1619. So text based hota ka?
No, it was visual.
Visual, okay.
VGA visuals.
VGA, okay. What is VGA?
Blocks.
Okay.
Right? I mean, you had 16 colors. And in 16 colors, pixelated images. So what would fit in today's screens in one tiny corner of the screen was the entire 640 by 480 visual. You used to see blocks.
Actually, त्या images आता आम्ही retro category मध्ये बघत असतो. Retro fonts, retro gaming.
Right. So that was a game. Interestingly, I still had that game around 4 to 5 years back. And I used to play occasionally once in a year kind of thing using DOSBox. It works only on DOS. It doesn't even support Windows. So it was an interesting journey. So these were the initial games that I played with. Then there was, let me remember, 90 to 95, I did not play a lot of games.
Okay.
Because there was a time when I was learning and I did not have exposure to or access to.
शिकत असताना तुम्ही गेम खेळला नाही.
Right, and it was not because of I didn't want to. It was because lack of opportunities. Right, 87 to 90, I was in school, so I had access to the school computers. 90 to 95 was a period when I did not have access to a machine, neither at home, neither at the place I used to go to training for. And I was in training for a couple of years, so it was focused more on C and programming languages. Games were frowned upon, so we did not have access to any games. So those 5 years, I don't think I've played any game. But
as a kid, म्हणजे तुम्हाला घरून कधी कोणी म्हटलं नाही का किती गेम खेळतो वगैरे असं
असं आहे की शाळेत असताना तर घरी माहितीच असायचं गेम खेळतोय आणि 95 पर्यंत तर गेमचा काही संबंधच नव्हता. म्हणजे गेम वॉज देन मोर ऑफ फिजिकल क्रिकेट और विटी दांडू और दॅट काइंड ऑफ गेम्स. इवन दोज गेम्स पीपल डोंट प्ले नाउ. तो 95 पर्यंत तसं एक्सपोजर नव्हतं खूप. 95 साली मी पुण्यात आलो.
Okay.
And I stayed with my uncle. So he had a machine at home.
Okay.
And that is where I, started playing F16 religiously. Every day, one mission kind of thing.
मला आठवतं म्हणजे मी 6वीत असताना शाळेत आलो की 3 तास अल्लाउद्दीन खेळायचो. मी गेम जिंकेपर्यंत तो खेळ त्यामुळे चष्मा लागला.
Correct. So Prince of Persia. That was a game.
Prince of Persia.
The game was very stupid in the sense that you had a 2D character. You used to play like I used to hop and skip and jump.
So Dave पण तसंच होतं.
Dave was interesting game. Though I did not play Dave a lot, but yes, it was something which was available. So yeah, these are some of the games which made my experiences, thought process, So that's the gaming journey that I had in initial days. Around 95 to 97, 98, the gaming scenario changed for me.
ओके.
Because then I got in touch with some of the friends in colleges who were game enthusiasts. मग आम्ही एकमेकांचे गेम शेअर करायला लागलो. 97, 98 इंटरेस्टिंग थिंग की मित्राकडे जर का गेम असायचा एखादा त्यांनी कुठून तरी मिळवलेला असायचा तो कॉपी कसं करायचं कारण गेम्स यूज टू बी बिग राईट इट यूज टू बी इन टर्म्स ऑफ मेगाबाइट्स नॉट इवन गिगाबाइट्स एट दॅट टाइम तो मेगाबाइट्स
मोबाईलवरचे गेम एक जीबी मध्ये
आणि फ्लॉपीज त्या काळात 1.4 आणि 1.2 MB फ्लॉपी असायचे मग आणायचे कसं मग फ्लॉपी डिस्कचा बॉक्स घेऊन जायचा त्याला झिप करायचे मल्टी पार्टिशन झिप करायचे बट दिस वॉज व्हेरी कम्बरसम सो व्हॉट वी यूज टू डू मशीन उघडायचं हार्ड डिस्क काढायची हार्ड डिस्क घेऊन इंटरच्याकडे जायचं त्याच्या हार्ड डिस्कने कॉपी मारायची आणि घरी आणून लावायचं
नेक्स्ट लेवल
हे सगळं फक्त गेम्स आहे म्हणजे हे कधी आम्ही कुठल्या काही प्रोजेक्ट करण्यासाठी प्रोजेक्ट कॉपी करण्यासाठी वगैरे असं कधी केलं नाही पण कुणाकडे छान गेम आलाय देर वॉज कपल ऑफ गेम्स विच वर रेज ॲट दॅट टाइम ॲटलिस्ट इन कॉलेज डेज आता कसं कॉलेजमध्ये काउंटर स्ट्राईक खेळतात
येस
तसं ड्युरिंग माय डेज देर वॉज अ गेम कॉल्ड एज वुल्फ 3D
येस
सो आय रिमेंबर वी यूज टू स्पेंड आवर्स ऑन वुल्फ 3D आणि एका मित्राच्या घरी मशीन होतं तर त्याच्या घरी अभ्यासाच्या नावाने मी जमायचो आणि सकाळी उठेपर्यंत ते चालू होते
मला म्हणजे आता बोलताना जाणवलं की ही जी थीम आहे ना की एखाद्याकडे गेम असतो एका मित्राकडे सो दुसऱ्या मित्राकडे दुसरा असतो आणि आपण सगळे जमतो ते इव्हन आय कॅन रिलेट टू दॅट कारण माझ्या चाइल्डहुडची थीम पण मोर ऑर लेस अशीच होती आमच्या बिल्डिंग मध्ये 3-4 कम्प्युटर्स होते इन्क्लुडिंग अस मग मित्र कधी माझ्या घरी येणार मग आम्ही माझ्या कम्प्युटर्सवरचे गेम खेळणार मग मित्राकडे जायचो त्याच्याकडे हॅरी पॉटरचा गेम होता आणि IGI मी असाच खेळलोय म्हणजे IGI 1 IGI 2 आय थिंक दिस जर्नी इज व्हेरी काय म्हणतात नॉस्टॅल्जिक रिलेटेबल पण आहे
I think almost everyone has gone through the same scenarios. Again, I don't know about Gen Z because now Gen Z has access to games almost from the day that they're born. So I don't know about that, but I think till 90s and 2000, early 2000s, this was the same scenario. It used to be a distributed library of games. की एकाकडे एक आहे दुसऱ्याकडे दुसरा आहे मग ते तुझ्या घरी येऊन खेळायचं त्याच्या घरी जाऊन खेळायचं सो yeah I mean that's the journey that we went through.
It was experience to think of it experience म्हणजे ते गेमिंगचे सीडीज विकणारे दुकानं शोधायचे
yes ते कुठे आहेत
तुझ्याकडे कुठली सीडी आहे माझ्याकडे कुठली सीडी आहे मला एज ऑफ एम्पायरची आठवण आठवते म्हणजे सो माझ्या सगळ्या कझन्स मध्ये तो फेवरेट गेम आणि मी माझ्या दादाकडे गेलो होतो आणि आम्ही असंच 7 वाजता बसलो एज ऑफ एम्पायर्स खेळायला लॅन वरती 9 वाजता घरचे ओरडायला लागले जेव्हा गेम लॅपटॉपचं इथे शेजारी ताट इथे ठेवले आम्ही जेवतो जेवण झालं मग 2-2:30 पर्यंत आम्ही सगळं बिल्डअप वगैरे केलं आणि आता आम्ही बॅटल सुरू करणार एवढ्यात माझा असा पाय लागला त्याची केबल निघाली आम्ही काय करावं आम्ही परत 3 वाजता नवीन चालू केलं सो दिस इज हाऊ माय जनरेशन ऑल्सो रिलेट्स टू द एक्सपिरियन्स ऑफ गेमिंग म्हणजे इव्हन आताची म्हणजे पबजी वगैरे सगळे मोबाईलवरती आपापल्या ह्याच्यावर खेळतात पण तो जो एक्सपिरियन्स आहे kind of it was a bonding also.
Yes. And you could see the person you are playing the game with.
Yes.
And you could communicate with them. You could have interaction with them. So I'm not saying this is good, this is bad. This is more from the point of view of ki tithe thought sharing just व्हायचं in terms of playing games as well. की मी जिंकलो आणि मी कसा जिंकलो त्यापेक्षा we played games.
Actually
was more important.
आणि आता स्ट्रीमिंग वगैरे त्याच्या 4 जण बसले ते एक खेळतोय बघतायत कमेंट चालू आहे जोक्स चालू आहेत गप्पा चालू आहेत It was quite a fun experience.
It was a fun experience. And it was fun. There's no other word.
तुम्हाला अजून कुठले गेम्स आठवतात असं की तुम्ही आवडीनं खेळ
Right. Cricket used to be an interesting game during those days. Cricket, I think I played for the first time around 99 or so.
FIFAचा क्रिकेट
FIFAचा का Alan Borden.
माझ्याकडे
So that was, I think, the first sports game that I played, and it used to be interesting. You know, की क्रिकेट खेळताना एवढी मेहनत करून शॉट मारायला लागते तिथं नुसतं माऊस फिरवलं की 6 वाजता. So yeah, that was interesting. Then during those days, early 2000s, let me remember which was the games that I played. NFS was one.
Yeah,
NFS hota, and Transport Tycoon was a game that I got introduced to in the year 99. I remember that. आणि तो मी अजूनही खेळतो. 99 to 2024 I have been playing that game for 25 years. It still is available on my machine. I keep on upgrading it every new version whichever comes up. So that was my first foray into tycoon games, and the game was made so well that it actually spawned a complete whole genre of tycoon games.
म्हणजे काय गेम आहे एक्झॅक्ट?
Transport Tycoon is about procedurally created. That was also a word that I came across for the first time. Procedurally created maps.
Okay.
So why it was interesting for us during those days? Ki even if you talk about AOE or any other games, the maps which used to be available there used to be kind of predictable. की तू एखादं काय बायोम सिलेक्ट केला की त्याचं असंच मार्ग येणार. तो Transport Tycoon had random terrain creation, random tree generation, random industry generation. So the basic idea is that you are a transport tycoon and you have access to road transport, rail transport, air transport, ship transport, and you are supposed to move goods, people, cargo from source to destination. Then you build the networks, road network, rail network, and you just play. And there used to be computer generated opponents.
Okay.
Who used to compete with you. So the whole idea of doing a business on machine was something interesting. आणि मग त्याच्यात मग वेगळे काय स्टडीज असायच्या की कसं मी जास्त गुड्स एका ठिकाणी दुसऱ्या ठिकाणी पोहोचवू शकतो. बट द बिगेस्ट इंटरेस्टिंग फॅक्टर इन फॉर अस ड्युरिंग दोज डेज वॉज रँडमनेस ऑफ. एव्हरी डे यू प्ले इट्स अ रँडम गेम. सो असं नाही की एकदा करून ठेवलं तेच मी पुन्हा अप्लाय करतो. काल खेळलेलो आज अप्लाय नाही होणार. So it forced you to think and devise new strategies. So the novelty of it was what interested. I mean, me and a couple of friends, we used to be mad after those games. That's why still I'm playing that.
Cats तुम्ही म्हणालात was the first game. Transport Tycoon you have been playing. आणि ह्या सगळ्यामध्ये यू माइट हॅव सीन ग्राफिक्स चेंजिंग, स्टोरी लाईन्स इव्हॉल्विंग. सो ह्या सगळ्या कॉन्टेक्स्ट मध्ये which are a few of the games that you are emotionally connected to?
Transport Tycoon, Age of Empires.
Okay.
And it was a pretty late introduction. I mean, I got connected with the game pretty late, around 2013-14. But Mass Effect is a game which I like because of the richness of the story.
Okay.
And it's a role-playing game. But there's one more game called as Diablo.
Okay.
So that it's a trilogy. I played the second part. First part I didn't play. Third part I haven't played. But the second part is interesting. Again, it's an isometric game, which colloquially we call as 2.5D. 2D nahi hai, 3D nahi hai, but somewhere in between.
Okay.
So it's an interesting game. So that is also something which I fondly recollect. I have a remastered version of Diablo again with me. तर असे 4-5 गेम्स आहेत which I'm emotionally invested in. That I would be. Road Rash, not a lot. Okay. I mean, I played in colleges, but being a peace-loving person, I did not really find it very interesting. No, jokes apart.
You found Age of Empires मधले battles interesting.
That's an interesting thought, and that's what I'm coming to. That even in Age of Empires, rather we'll talk about that later on when we talk of the genres or games, or as we go ahead into that. Age of Empires has influenced my way of thinking in real life as well.
Okay.
And that's something which I found really interesting. तेव्हा नाही कळलं हे, but later on when I started analyzing, I realized that was what changed how I think.
That's interesting. मला असं विचारायचंय की what captivates you? गेमचे ग्राफिक्स का स्टोरी लाईन?
Story line.
Okay. I mean, so you are okay if the graphics are not that good?
Yes.
Storyline.
Sometimes, see, because I'm playing a game on my desktop. Generally, laptops I don't play games. I use them for official work. But desktop, it's an old desktop, and I still haven't upgraded my graphics card. So sometimes the games play slow. So
that's coming to that. मला तुमचं गेमिंग सेटअप काय त्याच्याविषयी थोडा क्युरियोसिटी वाढायला.
We'll talk about that. So what I have done multiple times is that I downgrade the videos or downgrade the resolutions, the graphics effect, because I'm more interested in playing the game rather than having something beautiful coming up in front of me. if the story is rich, I wouldn't mind playing even a text game.
Hmm.
Right? I mean, nowadays I'm also interested in a different kind of genre, which is called as visual novels.
Okay.
Alternate endings and multiple endings kind of scenario where it's a text-based game with images or videos interspersed in between, and based on choices, the story flows forward. So I'm interested to those kind of games. Current त्याच्यात story आहे, and it goes. People are trying to go as near to real life situations as they can.
सो तुम्ही चॅट जीपीटी सोबत कधी टेक्स्ट बेस्ड गेम खेळलाय का रिसेंट?
Okay. One of the reasons why I am using ChatGPT, I did not like the whole idea of AI and ChatGPT initially. I'm not really a fan of AI doing my work.
ओके.
म्हणजे आजकाल जे ChatGPT वापरून लोक कोडिंग करतात, I'm not really a fan of it. Because I believe that it somehow demeans the whole effort of coding and everything. Personal opinion, nothing.
Controversial आहे म्हणजे मी इथेच आर्ग्युमेंट करू शकतो.
So it's a personal opinion. We can have a discussion on that separately. But interestingly, that's something which changed my thought process a little bit about ChatGPT and the generation tools in general. Okay. And it got triggered. You have to be credited with that. I think we talked about this previously as well, but to make it public, that you mentioned that ChatGPT can generate poems now.
Yes.
And I tried that. I said, "ऐसे कैसे हो सकता है? Let me try." So I wrote a simple prompt that create a sonnet using the style of Shakespeare.
Okay.
It actually created a completely new poem. Right? So now what I'm doing is I'm not still yet successful, but I'm trying to generate a core of a text game using ChatGPT.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yes, it does work out. As I said, I'm still not completely in command of how ChatGPT works, so it still lacks the finesse of what would be needed. But एक seed तरी तैयार होते game. And I'm now trying to see whether I can convert that into actual coding, actual kind of scenarios. So I'll just give an idea. So where I am right now in terms of that.
Okay.
की कुठल्याही गेम मध्ये character creationचा एक portion असतो. Game सुरू होताना. I've been able to do that using ChatGPT.
क्या बात है? Okay.
Of course, without the UI, and again, UI is not something which is my cup of tea, but the character creation engine, I'm able to develop using ChatGPT.
But actually, just as a thought, this is a very good sandbox for developing game stories.
Yes.
म्हणजे टू अँड फ्रो किंवा वेगळ्या वेगळ्या सिच्युएशन्स इमॅजिन करणं असेल. सो डू यू सी, आपण हे गेमिंगच्या फ्युचर मध्ये डिस्कस करू, क्विक इंट्रो टू दिस, की तुमचा एक्सपिरियन्स आहे त्याच्यामुळे ज्याच्यावरून आय वुड लाईक टू क्वेश्चन की डू यू सी की एआय ॲज अ इंजिन could change how games are developed?
Yes, because one of the complaints that gamers always have is the predictability of the game. की करेक्ट, चारदा गेम खेळली मला कळतं की कुठे काय होणार आहे. So AI is going to play a very major part into that. There are changes happening in games as well now, that the opponent is now AI based, and you never know as to how it's going to react. The same situation.
So you like AI as an opponent as opposed to an intern?
Yes, because AI as an opponent would challenge my thought process.
Yes.
So yeah, त्याच्यावरती काम बरेच लोक करतायत आता, and I think games will become a huge part of human lives as we go ahead.
Gamification.
Yes, gamification is happening. Interestingly, Ender's Game.
Sorry?
Ender's Game.
Okay.
There's a movie called this.
Okay.
And there's a whole series of books written on that. It's an interesting thought. It's not the right time to talk about that right now, but the whole idea is that there's a kid who's good at playing games, and the powers that be use him to play a game, and behind the scenes they are simulating the game in terms of the actual strategy for the war that they're fighting with other aliens.
Okay.
And using his gaming experience or gaming expertise, he defeats the aliens. So that's interesting idea. I mean, it's not yet practically possibly, but as an idea, that's interesting. We talked about gamification, right?
Yes.
So this is where we are going possibly, and there are different situations where games can also be useful. We'll probably discuss it as we go ahead. पण because games nowadays are more of a representation of real world life stories आणि आहेत. त्याच्यामुळे people are also able to connect with them. Immersification जे होते आता लोकांचं ते त्याच्यामुळेच होते. They are able to relate with the character which they are playing in a game. And even the titles are coming up in such a way that they are simulating the real world scenarios. Like for example, there is a huge franchisee by Maxis called as Sims.
Sims, yeah. Sims 2, 3, 4.
4 now, and every 2 months they come up with a new content for the game, and it's. I used to be addicted to Sims as well. So yeah, I mean that's how the whole scenario is developing. That using Sims, I could understand the thought processes of people.
No, okay.
That जर का एखाद्या कॅरेक्टरला ह्या बॅकग्राऊंडच्या कॅरेक्टरला ह्या सिच्युएशन मध्ये ठेवलं तर how would that react?
Okay.
Fine, of course, it's not 100% true, but it gives you a ballpark figure in terms of
insight
मिळतं की काय ह्या बॅकग्राऊंडचा एखादा माणूस असेल, ह्या काय let's say economic स्टार्टरचा माणूस असेल, in a scenario how would that person react, in an interaction how would that person react. It's a game, yes, but people who are developing games are also going to the real life experience to make it richer. आताची ट्रेंड मला दिसतो आहे, or what I am more interested in is playing a game which is near real, rather than having some hypothetical situations happening or something. Even if it is science fiction, even if it is fiction game, it should be based on how a character or a creature or a sprite would behave in real life rather than randomly. The randomization game मध्ये आता कमी व्हायला लागले. Dungeons and Dragons मध्ये जसं व्हायचं की you roll a dice and then based on that something will be happening next. हे कमी होतंय and now it's more rational.
If you think about the game from a developer's perspective, तेवढी variability include करणं, because game is a product ultimately, तुम्हाला तो build करून check करायचा. But this will change when AI takes the center stage.
This will change. I mean, if you bring AI into the mix, आता एक Mass Effect जर का म्हणलं तर Mass Effect सारखी ट्रिलॉजी तयार करायला it takes a gaming studio anything from 5 to 6 years. So I believe that will be cut down, and the studios would be churning out games in matter of months. So yeah, that's a benefit that we can see by having AI coming into the game.
मी बोलता ऑब्झर्व केलं तुम्ही जे गेम्स म्हणाला, सो ऑलमोस्ट ऑल ऑफ द गेम्स आर पीसी बेस्ड.
Yes.
मोबाईल वरती गेम खेळत
No.
Why?
I find the mobile screens to be a challenge because I'm used to have a bigger view as compared to the mobile views that you get. Yeah, I have few games on mobile, but they are those tap kind of games.
Flappy Bird.
Yeah, Angry Bird kind of games, or what's that?
PUBG.
No, I don't play any of the.
What do you think of PUBG? How do you
I don't know. I mean, I've played PUBG on my desktop once.
Okay.
I did not like it because
it's a controversial statement.
Yeah, I did not like it because the focus in PUBG is more towards winning the game, or the attaining the chicken dinner or whatever that is. Yeah. I don't know what that means. Okay. But it's more towards that. It's not about the what can I say? The word again. I'll go back to the same word, that I'm not able to immerse myself into the game. I'm not part of a game. I'm just someone who literally parachutes into an island and starts shooting people. that doesn't appeal to me. Probably I'm in a minority, but that doesn't appeal to me. I need a game which captivates my interest. I need a game which engages me.
Story पाहिजे त्याला.
Story पाहिजे त्याला. दिसला त्याला मारलं. That doesn't work for me. So possibly, yes, I understand there's a huge section of people who might be incensed at what I'm saying, but it's a personal opinion that I'm not saying PUBG is good or bad. It doesn't work for me, is what I'm saying. So
personality प्रमाणे games are
correct.
Natural. So gaming, how did it change you as a person? Or did it?
It did.
Okay.
As I said, that Age of Empires has had a massive influence on the way I think. everyone has different strategies in playing Age of Empires, and I believe everyone in the world has played Age of Empires at least once.
Almost, yes.
Bold statement to make, but I think
At least गेमिंग वर्ल्ड मधले तरी
गेमिंग वर्ल्ड मध्ये सगळ्यांनी एकदा तरी खेळलेले आहेत. So everyone has different strategies. My strategy in Age of Empires was always build the walls first.
ओके.
Define your settlement, build the walls, create the towers, man them with the people, and then start developing the village inside. How this has changed my thought process as a person is because now I look at the possible drawbacks, risk assessment, risk mitigation मी आधी करतो, and then I start getting into whatever I need to do.
It's interesting.
So that has changed over a period of time. Now I don't just jump into something and हे करायचं चला करून टाकू. No. हे करायचंय, what are the possible problems, tackle those first, and then completely devote your attention to whatever you want to do.
Okay.
As I said, की हे तेव्हा मला नाही कळलं, पण later on as I started thinking, अरे आपला हा विचार कसा बदलला. Then I started realizing that this came from Age of Empires. कारण Age of Empires ही खेळताना as you have already shared, की ते लहानवरती खेळण्यात जास्त मजा यायची एकट्याने खेळण्यापेक्षा. सो कॉलेजमध्ये असताना आम्ही 6 मित्रांचा ग्रुप होता, and 6 of us used to play LAN game, Age of Empires, आणि 6 लोक एवढ्याशा मॅपमध्ये it used to be bloodbath every day. की काय उठले मारायला सुरू केलं. सो देन आई डिसाइडेड की नहीं, पहले कुछ अलग करने की, हर बार के जाके मारने का मारकाट करने का खत्म हो गया. सो आई थॉट लेट्स बिल्ड द बेस. की एकदा माझी जर का वॉल स्ट्रॉंग असेल, टॉवर्स लावलेले असतील, तर ते त्यांचं करत इट इज ऑलमोस्ट ऑटोमॅटिक. इफ समबडी ट्रायज टू hit my village, then the towers and everyone put around the drawbridge will take care of that. I'm more focused on building the base now. Then I can do Age of Empires had research and all that kind of scenario, right? कि तुम्हें रिसर्च करो, तेरा जास्त ये करो सकता था. तो पहले वो करने का टाइम नहीं मिलता था. 2 फार्म बनाए और 4 के आर्चर और 2 फुट सोल्जर बनाए और चलो किसी को मारा. तो वो उसमें फिर मजा नहीं आता था कि यार क्या आधे घंटे में खत्म हो जाता है, या तो किसी ने मुझे मारा या तो मैंने किसी को मारा. तो फिर that is where I started thinking more from the point of view of a holistic view in terms of getting the job done. And आधी risk mitigation, then focus on whatever that you want to do. So this is something which Age of Empires has changed in my life. So that's a complete thought process change.
So interesting. Gaming set तुम्ही सांगितलं नाही.
Gaming set. Okay, what I have is, I don't remember the model number now. It's an assembled machine.
Okay.
And the assembly started in 95.
So computer also has a history.
Yes. So it started in 95. From those days, I don't have anything remaining now. But in different forms and mediums, the machine has kept on changing.
Okay.
So today what I have is an NVIDIA card. Like I said, I don't remember the model number or specs of that, but I think it has 8 GB RAM. I have 32 GB machine, i7, I think 11th or 12th generation. And hard disk, well, I have multiple hard disks.
Okay.
On the rack itself, I have 2 hard disks of 1.5 GB total, 1.5 TB total capacity, and I have attached 4 external hard disks to the machine.
Okay.
One is 5 TB, one is 3 TB, and 2 of them are 1.5 TBs.
But an upgrade from 1.4 MB from.
Yes. So total footprint that I have right now, only on games, is around 4 to 5 TB. So 4 to 5 TB worth of games are available on my hard disk right now. So yeah, that's a journey from cats to. But it has been pretty much interesting journey, and sometimes the wife gets angry. But yeah, I mean, she has also accepted that he's going to play games.
So तुम्ही कधी प्रयत्न नाही केला का त्यांना पण एनकरेज करायला?
She doesn't like it. She thinks it's a stupid hobby. She used to be a fan of Prince of Persia.
Okay.
And she even today, if Prince of Persia comes back in the original form, not the 3D form that is now available, So she would definitely play it.
प्रिन्स ऑफ पर्शिया म्हणजे ते केज मधनं तो खाली उडी
Yes,
मारत होता.
yes, yes. So she loved that game, and I think she was the first one in her family to complete the game.
क्या?
All the 12 layers, so 12 levels of it. So yeah, she likes simple games, not the high fancy games games which would require investment, she wouldn't like possibly.
तुम्ही कन्सोल गेम्स विषयी
I
बोलणार कसं
haven't
म्हणजे लक्ष-
played a lot of
खेळत
console
नाही.
games. My friend used to have that, but then it had a dependency in terms of the cassettes and the cartridges that used to be required, and we were coming from lower middle class family. All my friends,
हम्म, हम्म.
not hand to mouth kind of scenario, but not even of a strata की जिथं cassette साठी पैसे मिळतात किंवा cartridge घ्यायचे म्हणून पैसे मिळतात. So we were exposed to that, but we were never a fan of it because we were never playing that.
हम्म.
And most of the cartridge games were available in one form or another in PCs.
हम्म.
So we never thought that we are lacking something or की आपल्याकडे नाही असं नाही वाटत कधी.
तुम्हाला प्ले स्टेशन किंवा त्या ह्याच्यामध्ये इंटरेस्ट नाही?
No, because I think it would be like teaching a monkey to learn new tricks.
Okay.
Because it has a different input devices, so I'll have to learn the new input devices. I'm used to ASDW. Right? So I'm used to that, and I don't think I'll be comfortable. I tried it once. I played PlayStation. One of my cousins has a PlayStation, so I tried it once. I struggled.
आणि VR गेम्सचा एक्सपिरियन्स
VR games,
गॉगल वगैरे
yeah. I played only once. I was, I don't know what word to use. It was interesting, but I couldn't come to grips with the whole way it was being done.
ओके.
Maybe given time, I'll get used to it because it's completely new. Right? सगळंच वेगळं आहे. The
कारण
senses.
आपण इमर्सिव्ह म्हणतो,
बरोबर.
स्टोरी म्हणतो, सो इट कुड बी अ ह्यूज.
Yes, I agree. As I said, it's new for me right now. त्यामुळे मला maybe थोडंसं disconnect आहे किंवा I'm not able to understand how this is to be played. I'm not able to understand की काय करायचं, कसं करायचं, or to use a better word, I think I feel lost.
ओके.
की गेम खेळताना मला कळत नाही की करायचं काय. But with experience, probably if I play more virtual games, I'll get used to it, and that's the world is going to move. So whether I like it or not, I'll have to learn that.
ओके. ऑन दिस पॉइंट टेकबिटचा हा एपिसोड आपण इथे थांबवूया. पुढच्या एपिसोडमध्ये पुन्हा भेटू. थँक्यू.